Hello everybody, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. Okay, so we have a couple of readings. This one here, reading 29, exchanges and OTC markets, is very similar. There's a lot of common ground with the one that follows, which is the one on central clearing. So what I want to do is just give you a bit of an overview as to what they're both about, and we'll see that they have a lot in common. Now, for a long time, certainly before the crisis in 2008, there were really only a clear divide, I suppose, between on the left-hand side you had the exchange traded, and on the right-hand side, down the bottom here, we have the over-the-counter. There's a very much kind of a clear divide. And on the left-hand side, we're going to have a look at exchanges in this reading here. I think the key highlight is going to be the central counterparty in the middle. That when you're trading on a regulated here, a futures and options exchange, that you have this central counterparty in the middle, taking over kind of the middleman part of the trade, in that A is now trading with the central counterparty, so is B as well, and that has a massive impact here for counterparty credit risk, guys. The counterparty credit risk is massively reduced for all kinds of ways. The legal term you'll see in the following reading for this, taking over the trade, is called novation, guys, novation. Now, we're going to see many of the features of exchanges that you'll be very familiar with. I would talk about, for example, margining, initial margin, variation margin, marking to market. So that aspect, along with standard contracts and a lot of regulation, transparency as well, a lot of reporting going on as well. Yes, so these types of features, again, all go to really help the liquidity, and we know that you're going to have a look at some of the scope of these exchanges as well coming in as well. Now, traditionally, when you look at the right-hand side, guys, or over the counter here, well, we have a very different environment because there's no middleman at all. It's us and them. And I often like to think about this in our credit risk areas a bit later on, especially in part two, where you've got perhaps let's have them over here, our counterparty, and us. Let's have us here as well. And one of the first things you'd have to think about when you are trading over the counter, first we have our own credit risks, our own credit quality. So we're perhaps AA, perhaps, and let's have them a lower credit quality at all. And so one of the first things is you don't have the security of trading on an exchange. It is known as a bilateral contract. But when you assess the credit risk, guys, of our counterparty, and they're assessing the credit risk of us, the nature of this counterparty credit risk, guys, our counterparty credit risk, is two-way. Yeah, it's two-way counterparty credit risk here, because either of us could be winning on a trade. And when we talk about counterparty credit risk, it comes in, guys, when you're winning. When you're winning on a trade, whether it might be any kind of a trade, you have the risk that they don't pay you. And so a good starting point on the right-hand side here would be the ISDA, the International Swaps and Derivatives Association, best practices and master agreements, which are very useful templates and starting points to tailor a contract between us. Now, on the left-hand side, no need for any of that stuff about tailoring contracts. They're all standard. You don't need your lawyers involved. You don't need to spend the time and all that due diligence in a way. If they're a member of the exchange, that's already been done. So on the right hand side, some of the features of over-the-counter markets in a way are similar, but they have to be put in place by mutual agreement, like the collateral, the mark-to-market, or netting. These are things that you would normally expect to see, of course, nowadays, but you'd have to negotiate how you're going to do business together to tailor agreement. All that is already done for you in our exchange traded here. Now, before we leave our over-the-counter